Welcome back to Jurassic Evergreen Park. In today's episode we will be introducing the beautiful PYRORAPTOR to our park in this circular habitat planned in the last episode. And with that said, hey guys, Legion here and welcome back to Jurassic World Evolution 2 in this new speed build in our Jurassic Evergreen Park. And like I just said, we're now going to be building for the PYRORAPTOR. The habitat was planned in the last episode and we were thinking of what to introduce there in that area. But now I'm going to be finishing all the detailing and pathwork for this habitat as well as the habitat itself. And in this episode I will be introducing a segment where basically we take a break sort of midway during the speed build, where we'll show you what I built off cam in between episodes. What you can see being constructed in the speed build right now is a little viewing window that I thought was a really cool idea. I used a bit of a heavier fence. It's not really an area where the guests are meant to look into the habitat in a very good way, but it's just sort of a little tease, and in front of that I placed one of those gardens I also showed you guys in the last episode. And I think together it makes for a really cool look, basically a little glimpse into the habitat. And whilst talking about this, I just noticed that there are a lot of viewing opportunities actually in this habitat. There are, I think, 4, one of them being the viewing galleries where the guests can experience the dinosaurs really close up, just with glass in between them. Then we have this little peeking window with the fence that I just showed you. We have also a viewing log which overlooks 2 parts of the habitat, once the drinking area and also the area where the PYRORAPTORs have their feeder, and also another viewing area for that area with the feeder is the little window that was already built in the previous episode, and from there the guests can look through one of the Jurassic Park fences into the habitat. And now over here I'm sort of constructing the viewing gallery area and decorating a bit in front of that, placing some trees and some custom planters with those bushes inside of them. And what I did in this exhibit again is that I separated the dinosaurs' drinking and feeding area, which is always just a really good trick, because it helps your dinosaurs to always have an actual reason to wander around in your habitat. And if you have multiple viewpoints, those can be quite useless if the dinosaurs never actually go there. So here I separated the drinking area right in front of the viewing galleries, and the feeding area is in front of another area where the guests can look through a fence to see the PYRORAPTORs. And now, since I already nailed down the placement for the log viewing gallery, I wanted to of course incorporate a little entrance area for that, because that's what you need for the guests to actually be able to use that. And I wanted to make like a little curve in front of that, and I think in the end it turned out fine. And yeah, of course some pathwork always is a bit of a struggle to always get it perfect, but I think it's worth it in the end if you have a nice flowing and satisfying path. And on the right hand side I did nothing really crazy. I just surrounded the circular habitat a bit with some path, and then in the future the guests will actually probably be able to look into the habitat in the next episode that I will build there, and sort of get a little bit of a tease of that. And also next to the Alamosaurus and Pentaceratops habitat, I just built a little plaza, and I was thinking of putting a food truck there. I actually have a trick for that, and that is just to use one of those trailers from the Malta DLC or even from the base game, but I personally used the one from the Malta DLC. But then I ended up just putting a toilet there, a restroom, because I think I don't actually have any of those in the park, and if only one, and of course you need some restrooms in the park. My theory would, my logic for the park would of course be that in restaurants and shops they actually have restrooms, but in sort of separate areas there also need to be restrooms if there's no shops for a longer time. Then in front of that I decided to put some little tables and chairs for the guests to rest as well, so it's just a little resting spot. But now, after finishing the terrain for the habitat, now I'm also using another little fun trick, and that is to place these tree planters from the taiga or alpine biome that actually have those yellow trees, and just basically use them as regular trees. You can hide the base with either big bushes or small bushes, and then it just looks like a yellow tree, and that is something that you really don't have with any of the placeable trees or tree brushes in the game, so it makes up for a really unique look. But speaking of bushes, this main path where the guests would be going, I tried to separate that off with the path where the guests would be standing to view into the habitat, and I did that with some of those small temperate bushes, which are actually, if you go in the guest POV, you can actually see that those are tall enough so you can't look over them. And another nice realism detail, basically another security measure, is to put these mortar walls in front of the fence, because you don't want the guests to be able to get as close to the fence to actually put like their hands and fingers through it, because then the PYRORAPTORs could still bite the guest's hand off or something like that. And of course we don't want that, so we put mortar walls in front of them. And to fill in some gaps right here, I'm using the planter technique I showed in the previous video, the park planning and decorating video. And basically I'm first sort of constructing an area out of mortar walls and those smaller walls, and then I fill them in with those tropical plants, and they look like awesome planters that are basically custom sized instead of those square planters you already have in the game. But in between building those guest areas around the habitat, I'm actually now starting to build the nature inside of the habitat. And first I'm doing a classic technique in this park, and that is to line the back of the habitat walls, those concrete walls, with first a line of bushes and then a line of rocks. But now we're gonna take a little break and I'll show you what I built in between episodes. First we have the previously planned restaurant, which consists of multiple buildings, one of those being a mortar hotel, and I think it looks quite nice with some seating areas, and now it's complete. And I also put some more benches in this area we decorated last time. But now we're back to awesome epic rock placement, where I'm currently decorating the cliff in between the drinking and feeding area for the PYRORAPTORs with some rocks, because the rock paintbrush itself isn't enough, of course. And as always, what I do with the log viewing gallery is that I sandwich both of these sort of cut off sides with trees, so to make it sort of look more like in the movie where it's just a fallen log and doesn't have those cut off ends. I don't know why, I just think it looks a little bit nicer, and it looks more like the actual movie, the Jurassic World movie, where that was in the T-Rex habitat. But yeah, I think it looks nice this way. But over here I added a little bit of a visual barrier in between the little peeking window for the guests and the rest of the habitat, so they don't get a view into the full habitat, and it's more of a sneak peek like what it's intended to be. Over here with the water, I first had a little bit of an issue with a dead goat lying there, and because of that I couldn't remove the water that I had placed there, just because of the water brush, you all know it's so big, and first you place something and then you take the rest away to get better and smaller water shapes. And yeah, that goat was kind of annoying, but in the end I managed to get that nice little water shape that I wanted. Now I decided to skip some of that nature work for the speed build, because it was just more of the same, some trees, rocks and bushes. But now the final touch will be some of those foliage brushes, where I use the one that is sort of like grass mostly, and decorate a lot of the habitat with that, some of the areas where the PYRORAPTORs wouldn't walk as much, and I think it really gives off that final touch to every habitat. Now I'm going back to the guest area and the plaza around the habitat. That still needs to be finished, of course, and I'm sort of struggling in the speed build to put together a little bit of a path cutout, where I'm going to put another path color, because over there I want a little separation between the viewing galleries and the rest of the main walkway, and I want to highlight that, of course, with some path flair, because that's always just really nice and makes those areas seem more intended and like they weren't just an afterthought. But now what needed to be done after that mostly was just the obligatory lining all of the path with planters or something like that. And I mostly decided for those sort of concrete and wooden mixed planters that I use quite a lot. I like them. I don't know, I just like to use them to line path, and especially for a path that descends down, so I use that on that one side. But now I'm also incorporating some more different colored path areas into the whole path segment, like some lining the outside, for example, or just little path squares where I'm going to place other decorations on, for example a Spinosaurus skeleton, or just a little one of those fountains. But now, after placing down some more bushes and starting those colored path areas, I'm gonna skip over most of the filling out the path, because that's usually very boring. It's just all of the same. But you're gonna see, of course, that I did it, that I filled in all of the path, and yeah. But now the rest of the speed build, and what you can see me doing, is just decorating the rest of the plaza with some of those, what is it called? The mural from the decorative update, of course. And a Spinosaurus skeleton I'm also gonna place down later with some fountains around it. And then of course I will line all of the rest of the path with some decorations, and place down seating for certain seating areas, and finish all of those areas with decorations, because otherwise the park wouldn't be done, of course, So now that all of that has wrapped up and that I've finished the habitat and most of the decorating, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this speed build and you're enjoying the park so far. I personally think it's quite a nice park. It's probably the best park I've ever built already at this point. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think it's going together really nicely. So if you have enjoyed the episodes, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, leave a like down below, and comment something that you really liked about this episode, maybe your favorite trick or decoration use I did in this episode, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye, and also enjoy the cinematics, of course.